Hey, it's Ryan. Welcome to episode 3 of the 1994 Honda 650L project bike video series. Today's a big day. We have our climber service manual finally, so we can have some official instructions on how to do things on this bike. Would have been super helpful with the oil change. Maybe I wouldn't have had such a mess. But anyways, today's a big day. We are going to pull the front drive sprocket off and inspect the countershaft. It's well known with these bikes that the stock sprocket has a decent amount of play in it, which causes the splines on the countershaft to roll over. I have my fingers crossed that with all the work that's been done to this bike, it would be strange that the front sprocket is the stock problem causing sprocket. And in the box of spare parts that I got from the person that I bought this from, there was 2 front sprockets in there. So I'm hopeful that's not going to be our issue. The plan for today, we're going to follow the manual. I believe it's chapter 12, and I'll show you that and what it looks like. We'll pop that cover off and see what we're looking like. Because if it is an issue and the splines are rolled over, it's going to be a whole nother giant project, because that's pretty, we'd have to pull the motor, split it, and replace the countershaft. So fingers crossed, stay tuned, and we'll see what it looks like. All right, so we're over at the workbench. Here's a closer look at the manual I was talking about. I got this off of Amazon for 35 bucks, and I feel like it's more than worth the money. I have the page I'm looking for bookmarked, and like I said, it's going to be chapter 12, but brief overview of this. There's the table of contents, and it's super easy to find what you're looking for. So here we are in chapter 12, page 247 under sprockets, and it gives you, looks like a 5-step with an AB under the 5 steps, so what, 7? But I think that's the reinstall. So it shouldn't be too much. I'm going to go over to the bike, pop the cover off, and we'll dive into it. To remove the front sprocket cover, it's 2 bolts here and here. It's going to be a number 5 metric hex bit socket. I'm going to try and say hex bit 5 times fast. And here's the reveal. All right, super rusty like everything else on the bike, but that does not look like the stock sprocket to me. There's a little bit of play. So let's pop it off and see what it looks like. So I just looked at the manual. Obviously there's the one. I took the cover off. You can see it's got the little holes in it. And then here's the service manual. Definitely does not look like the same sprocket. I'm sure a lot of other people know better than me just by looking at it, but it doesn't look the same. So good sign. Next step in the process is just going to be removing these 2 bolts, and they're both 10 mil. The rear tire keeps spinning as I'm trying to take the bolts out of the front sprocket, so I'm going to just shove this breaker bar in there and let it sit up let it sit up against the spokes. Don't do that. It's a joke. Don't do that. Don't do it. All right, so we're going to take these off. All right, so 2 bolts are out. And we'll see if we can get the retainer off. There we go. There it is. Let's see what it looks like. Piece of the chain guide just popped off. All right, so here's the front sprocket. This is pretty beefy on that side. The primary drive one I saw where it has the shelf on either side to create the gap, but that one looks pretty thick. Push that rusty chain back. That doesn't look good at all. Uh-oh. Well, unfortunately, it looks like we got bit by the countershaft problem. It's not as bad as some of the ones that I've seen, although it is not good by any means. The thicker front sprocket that was on there, it looks like was to push it further back, so it was biting on the teeth that are still remaining, but the front half are definitely worn out. So I think it's going to have enough to at least get some ride time before we have to split the motor and replace the countershaft. Let me know what you guys think, because I've seen some pictures, some completely ruined ones, but it almost looks like this is old wear, and then they swapped it to the thicker one to try and bite those other teeth. So not the best news by any means. I knew we were going to run into some problems, but I really thought we were going to get lucky with this. But that's just how it goes sometimes, and all it means is there's going to be some more videos of some major projects for this bike. I know this is hard to see. I'm trying to do my best here. It looks like the splines, when the tape measures butted up against the case, are supposed to be about 5/8 of an inch. It looks like we're missing about it looks like 1/4 of an inch. And what is left, you can see there's a shelf starting on the remaining teeth too. So not great. I cleaned up the front sprocket just to try and see what it looks like. And it doesn't look too bad, but again, I have no idea how long this sprocket was on there in comparison to what I would assume would be the stock one, excuse me, that caused all this damage. And there's no brand stamp on this, so if you're familiar with what this front sprocket is, let me know. Here's the comparison. This is what came off of the bike. See the thickness on one side, and these aren't stock, but from what I read, the thickness is the stock thickness is about this. These are the two spares that came in the box of spare parts. I'll try and hold them up side by side. These look the same, so I'll put this one down. But there's the one that came off the bike, and then there's the thinner shelf one. I know the primary drive one, the brand primary drive has two thicker, I guess not two thicker, but two shelves, one on each side to create that gap, or fill the gap rather. I'm going to slide the front sprocket on so you can see where the sprocket teeth are lining up on the splines. Again, let's see if I can rotate. You can see on this one how far it's supposed to come out. There. So the sprocket's sitting on all of what's supposed to be there. Obviously, I have no way of creating the same amount of force the bike would, but it's pressed up against it. There's no slop. So I don't know. We'll do some research and then see if it's even worth putting any ride time on, or if we should go straight to replacing it. But yeah, you know, sometimes these things happen. Well, a bit of a bad news day, but we knew it was going to happen with a bike this old and buying it with a lot of unknowns. So, you know, I've seen some countershaft pictures, reading through forums and all that kind of stuff that were a lot worse. So, could be better, could be worse. That's just kind of how it goes. It looks like there was the damage from the stock sprocket, and then they put this one on trying to save the splines. My opinion, obviously I have no way of knowing that. But yeah, I don't feel overly negative about it. It's just going to create more projects, learn more about this machine. The motor is going to come out at some point anyway. So if it has to come out now, then so be it. A little peace of mind for long rides in the future if we have to go that route. So thanks for tuning in. That's going to wrap up episode 3, excuse me, and we'll see you guys next week.